Hello and welcome. I'm Suma Katauka and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. According to media reports, Algeria has started procedures to cancel its 2013 air services agreement with the United Arab Emirates, formally notifying Abu Dhabi and the International Civil Aviation Organization. The move comes amid rising political tensions between the two countries. Iran's foreign minister says U.S. nuclear talks mediated by Oman are off to a good start and will continue. Tehran insists it will discuss only its nuclear program and calls for talks without threats or pressure. According to Syrian state media reports, Saudi economic delegation led by Investment Minister Khalid al-Falih arrived in Damascus to sign strategic agreements with Syria aimed at supporting Syrian economy and launching a new phase of bilateral partnership. Italian police said they suspect deliberate arson after a fire damaged rail infrastructure near Bologna, causing train delays of up to 2 hours at one of Italy's busiest hubs on the first full day of the Winter Olympic Games. Now, the Italian anti-terror police have started investigations. However, no claim of responsibility has been made so far. France's national financial prosecutor has opened an investigation into former culture minister Jack Lang and his daughter Caroline Lang over suspected aggravated tax fraud laundering, following the release of U.S. Justice Department files linking Lang to late financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. While Lang denies any wrongdoing, he says he will fully cooperate with investigations. The US and India released an interim trade framework aimed at lowering tariffs and deepening economic ties. Both sides say more negotiations are needed to finalize a broader trade agreement. A U.S. appeals court upholds Trump's policy of mandatory detention for migrants without bond. The 2-1 ruling marks the first appellate backing despite widespread lower court opposition. Thousands have gathered in Bani Walid yesterday for the funeral of Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, the son of former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, who was shot dead by unidentified gunmen on Tuesday, a turnout that highlighted Libya's deep political divisions that still remain after more than a decade of 2011 uprising. Now for this hour, we start with US and India. India has successfully defended its key trade red lines in the landmark agreement with the United States. Union Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has said that the deal does not compromise the interests of Indian farmers and does not open the door to genetically modified agricultural products imports. Addressing concerns raised by farmers' groups and opposition parties, Goyal made it clear that there is no provision in the US-India trade pact that allows the import of GM farm products. He said India's food safety standards and agriculture policies remain fully protected under this agreement. The comments comes a day after India and the United States released an interim trade framework, moving closer to a broader pact. The framework seeks to lower tariffs, reshape energy ties, and deepen economic cooperation as both countries look to realign global supply chains and reduce dependence on China. However, the deal has drawn criticism at home. Several farmers, organizations, and opposition parties have claimed the agreement could threaten the livelihood of small and marginal farmers by opening Indian markets to cheaper imports. Responding to these claims, Goyal has said the agreement actually creates opportunities for Indian farmers. He pointed out that certain Indian agricultural products, including bananas and mangoes, will get zero tariff access to the US market under agreed concessions. The Commerce Minister maintained that the deal balances market access with national interests, ensuring farmers are protected while expanding India's export footprint. As negotiations continue towards a final agreement, the government says agriculture and food security will remain non-negotiable. Now for this, we welcome retired Major General Sudhakarji. He's a senior strategic and international affairs expert, joins us live from Jaipur. Thank you very much, Major General Sudhakarji, for joining us again. Good to have you.
Thank you, Asoma. Thank you. Good evening to you.
Good evening. Now, looking at this, India has successfully defended its key trade red lines. So, what was the key trade red lines for India, and how will this impact this deal moving forward?
Great. It's a fantastic question you have asked.
Thank you.
My take on the whole issue in response
Yes.
to your question, the red lines of India were basically the agriculture sector and the dairy sector. Because earlier also America has been making very serious attempts to penetrate into the Indian system and present a competitive edge of its products related to agriculture and this what do you call the dairy. Besides that, if I look back and join the dots, Asuma, there are things like steel, copper, aluminum. They also have been subjected to tariffs in the past. And these tariffs have been further responded by India with counter tariffs. For example, in 2019, during Donald Trump regime of 1.0, America was imposed with counter tariff on some of the products. Offhand, I don't remember the exact listing, but they were on things like coffee, soybean, coke, etc., etc. And now, when the trade deal was yet to be finalized, about a month and a half. Okay, in 2019, whatever counter tariffs had been imposed by India in response to US's tariff on steel, aluminum, and copper, and a couple of other products, India had imposed counter tariff, and Joe Biden, during his tenure, he lifted this counter tariff, the tariff imposed by USA, and that's how India also had withdrawn. So tariff actually does not take any of the parties or stakeholders to a productive end state. It does, to an extent, help your own segments to be protected and safeguarded. So now, when the trade deal was in progress, India has already imposed a counter tariff against the agricultural product of USA in the month of December or January, sometime in December, January, something close to 30%, if I recall. So these things will go on. But coming to the specific question that you are talking of, it is agriculture and dairy were the absolute non-negotiable red line as far as India is concerned, which India was trying to engage with the USA and find a permanent and lasting solution with regard to the trade barriers. Back to you, Asuma.
Right. And although from my point of view, this deal was suddenly announced, and what was the background of this deal that was just suddenly announced this week? And also, if you can tell us, how do you analyze the trust level between US and India right now? Do you think it's rebuilding?
So one has to handle the US with care.
Yes.
Good old adage or saying of Henry Kissinger, anybody who's the best, he used to say, ki, it is
Yes.
good to be an enemy. He said, it is dangerous to be an enemy of US, but it is fatal to be a friend of US. Henry Kissinger, in his words, said long, long back. So therefore, I would administer, or through your channel in response to your question, I would say, stop celebrating. I would caution, inject caution into India. Be very objective when you are dealing with USA, and it's the most unpredictable. You don't know. There may be a second Iran wherein you will say that 25% tariff is imposed on Iran. Issue may not be directly related to India, but anyone doing trade or like Chahbar port or something like that, some new thing will crop up, and again 10% or 15% will add on. India should be mindful and be prepared for these kind of eventualities, because we are used to dealing with USA. We have learned the harder way. Trust has taken a backseat. It will take ages. It will take long time, because it's easy to break relationship, but very difficult to repair. So therefore, I would actually urge the government of India. Yes, it's good to have 18%, but this 18% also can become 68% in no time. Who knows how things are going to turn around tomorrow? Who knows what is the mood of Donald Trump? But having said that, we should always believe and practice in power of now. The power of now is what is the reality now? It is 18%. How does it impact the Indian economy? It impacts the Indian economy, particularly the labor intensive products. To name a few: leather, your jewelry, gems, you have electronic products, etc., etc., and some of the pharmaceutical products also. So when you take into account the whole basket, used to be a huge basket going to America, and you had high-end buyers. Look at the market in America. It is the largest, I would say, economy as far as Indian exports are concerned. So therefore, to lose out one single country with such a huge basket of potential market on some of the products had a direct impact, adverse impact on the employment opportunities. Labor intensive, like textile. I forgot about the textile and apparel. Though they were not competitive as against Bangladesh and Vietnam and other countries around and China, but now with 18%, we should always see the silver lining, what is being offered now. We must go ahead, make a hay when the sun shines. The sun is shining now. Be optimistic, be positive, and our exporters will do well to actually, grab the opportunity and go in for it full hog without a second, waiting for the second opportunity or window, and try and push out maximum products as far as possible. 18% is less than the tariff which has been imposed on Bangladesh and Vietnam, if I recall correctly. Indonesia is 20%, Bangladesh and Vietnam, they are 19%, China is 34 or 35%. So therefore, India is in a very competitive margin. Look at the positive aspect. So as long as the positive remains positive, go on, bash on. This is the only way to work in chaos. One must know how to survive in chaos, learn how to fall forward, get up and keep moving ahead. That's the way to for the country to grow and become a global power by 2047 with 30 trillion GDP, US dollar GDP, and with I would say per capita income bouncing from $3,000 as of now, approximately 3,000 to 14,000 to 20,000 by 2047. Back to you, Suma.
With that, I'd like to thank Major General Sudhakarji for joining us today and sharing that insight. Thank you very much. Now we move on to France. Former French Culture Minister Jacques Lang has denied allegations linked to the late Jeffrey Epstein, calling them baseless. Lang, who is under investigation by France's financial crimes prosecutors, says he is taking the inquiry with serenity. The investigations follows revelations in Epstein files, which showed years of correspondence and financial links between Lang and the convicted sex offender. Lang denies any wrongdoing, claiming no funds were moved, and he's ready to provide explanations. Pressure is mounting for Lang to resign from his position as president of the Arab World Institute in Paris as well. Now, his daughter, Caroline Lang, also resigned from her role at the Independent Production Union after her connection to Epstein emerged. Lang's lawyer has said they expect the prosecutors to act swiftly in clearing his name. Now, for this, we welcome Ms. Alison Nuttler. She's a former AP Bureau Chief in Bucharest, joins us live from Romania. Thank you very much for joining us. Good to see you. Hi. So now looking at this, what do we know so far about the connections between Epstein and Jack Lang, also his daughter?
Well, from what we're finding out, it's another very murky, possibly seedy, I'm not sure whether it's illegal, but there is an investigation going on, link between the French former culture and education minister, who now holds a very prestigious post at the Arab World Institute. And it's the highest level French official who has been connected to Jeffrey Epstein. And it seems there has been some financial entanglement, and there will also talk about gifts and a use of, planes or cars, etc. Plus his daughter as well, who's actually resigned her post. So there is definitely something, there are definitely links, whether they're illegal or not, French prosecutors are investigating. Lang has come out very strongly. He says he's facing this investigation with serenity and no wrongdoing was done. He also said he had no idea about Jeffrey Epstein's wrongdoing, sexual wrongdoing, although it already was known he'd had actually been convicted of, I think, sex with a minor. So he is absolutely totally distancing himself for this. But why it's interesting for France is this is a person who has held very high office for a long time. I think he was the culture minister for 12 years. Then he was the national education minister for 10 years. And he's held his current post for 12 years. So this is somebody who's been, even though he's perhaps not a name known outside France, except for perhaps in cultural circles, he has somebody who's been at the top of power for decades. And he's 86, so he's somebody, you know, in many countries, somebody of that age would be retired, but he is still right at the top, running an important institute. And he is the largest name to be snared that we've found out so far in this file dump. Connected to Jeffrey Epstein. So it is being followed with great scrutiny and interest in France and perhaps in the outside world, because I think people are finding out the level and the network and the web of connection that Jeffrey Epstein had to people who were at the top of their profession and held the levers of powers in their country.
So if no funds were transferred, as Lang still claims, so why has France's Financial Crimes Unit opened an investigation? And also, what key questions still remain unanswered from your analysis for now?
I think there's two things here. There's two things. There's something that's illegal, and then there's reputational damage. The fact that he was connected with this international paedophile who had these worldwide collections. We're not sure if it's illegal. That will be investigated, and it's up to the French prosecutors to come up with the evidence for that. But I do understand that the French President Emmanuel Macron's office has said that he thinks that Lang should step down from his position, as his daughter did, not because she's been convicted of anything, but not to bring her union into any disrepute and you know, to bring bad publicity practically. But whether anything illegal has been done, whether there's some fraud or use of money in an illegal way, I can't say that. I think the French prosecutors should investigate, and I do agree with him that it should be done quickly. It shouldn't be one of these long drawn out prosecutions that take years. It should be done very quickly. But I think there are two reasons why somebody would resign his position. There was one, if he was convicted of wrongdoing, and that is unclear whether that will happen or not. But it's also the reputational damage. And it's somebody who has, you know, I'm not saying it's a sinecure, his job, but he's had this job for 12 years. He's 86 years old. And, you know, Macron thinks, and probably other people in France think he should resign because of the reputational damage that's been done, as his daughter did. But he seems to be trying to ride this out, denying everything, saying he's done nothing wrong, and he's very calm, and he's waiting for his name to be cleared.
With that, I'd like to thank Ms. Mutler for sharing that insight with us. Thank you. Now we move on to Olympics. 5 players from the Swiss and Finnish ice hockey teams have been reportedly tested positive for norovirus at the 2026 Milano Cortina Games. But the International Olympic Committee has assured that there is no wider outbreak. The Swiss case was identified just 2 days after Canada and Finland had postponed their opening game due to 4 members of the Finnish team falling ill with the same virus. The IOC's executive director has clarified that the situation is under control, with both teams following proper medical protocols. Let's listen into his statements.
But I wouldn't like that the way it is framed, that anyone has a doubt that it could be an outbreak. It is not. We had a few cases coming from Finland, coming with symptoms dealt with. We have one Swiss case coming with symptoms being dealt with in the most appropriate way from the medical team here in the village. So, Graham, please, and everyone, let's not start to make a point about what is currently 5 athletes being dealt with.
The IOC spokesperson has also reassured that the situation is being handled effectively. Let's listen in.
I spoke to our medical director, obviously, on this topic this morning, and I sent her a note, and she says there is absolutely no reason to suspect that these cases are related.
Sources say that the Swift team discovered the positive case after a win against the Czech Republic. The team members who were isolated as a precaution have now returned to practice ahead of their next game against Canada. Now we move on to Barcelona. Barcelona have officially withdrawn from the European Super League project, dealing a further blow to a competition that once threatened to upend European football. In a statement released on Saturday, the club confirmed it has formally communicated its exit to the Super League company and the remaining participating clubs. With Barcelona's decision, Real Madrid are now the only club still openly backing the project, which was first conceived in 2021 as a breakaway league designed to benefit Europe's richest and most powerful teams. Barcelona's president Juan Laporta has signaled this move earlier this year, saying the time had come for clubs to move on and return to UEFA's competition structure. The withdrawal now formally aligns Barcelona with UEFA's existing framework, including the Champions League. The Super League collapsed almost as soon as it was announced in 2021, after fierce fan protests, political pressure, and strong opposition from UEFA, FIFA, and domestic leagues. All 6 English Premier League clubs involved withdrew within days, forcing the project into a limbo. Over time, support continued to erode. Juventus pulled out in July 2023, leaving only Barcelona and Real Madrid from the original founding group. A rebranded attempt to revive the idea in December 2024, called the Unified League, also failed to gain traction amid resistance from major leagues. Real Madrid now stands alone, continuing their legal and political fight while seeking compensation from UEFA for most of European football. However, Barcelona's exit appears to mark the final chapter of a controversial and divisive project. Now we welcome Ms. Pradyumna Tembekar. He's an Indian ambassador to FIFA World Cup, joins us live from Mumbai. Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to NewsX World. Now, with Barcelona gone, what realistic future, if any, does this Super League have?
Firstly, thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you.
And honestly speaking, yes, Super League was a concept which had initiated a lot of backlash, because as a football fan myself, I wouldn't even want a different kind of competition from the existing format. Yes, certain changes were needed in the existing European competitions or continental competitions in that matter. And thanks to this movement, or thanks to this league that was initiated, I think time had come for UEFA to start modifying its rules. And with the new Champions League format, I don't even know if they have a Super League of that sort. When would they have the time to host a competition given the long format of the new Champions League? So considering that Barcelona aims to play in the Premier most competition in UEFA cycles, I guess the club must have taken a decision to withdraw and focus on winning titles rather than creating a tournament of their own.
Right. And thank you for highlighting that. And also, does Barcelona's return to full alignment with UEFA signals the definitive end of breakaway league ambitions in European football, or could similar ideas resurface in another form?
Given the crisis that the club was in around a couple of seasons ago, I don't think Barcelona might just take a step ahead in forming a dimension of its own. However, it's so ironic to see that a club that has a number of UEFA Champions League titles had to withdraw a petition and form its own different format. But yes, looks like teams might just stage a breakaway, but now does not feel the right time to have any sort of changes, because the format of all competitions has been rebranded. So unless and until there is a loophole that could be exposed in this new tournament structure, I don't think anyone would like to even start negotiating with clubs to form different ideologies of tournaments.
With that, I'd like to thank Mr. Tembekar for joining us today and sharing that insight with us on NewsX World. Now we move on to South Korea. South Korean cryptocurrency exchange Bithumb has said that it had accidentally given away more than $40 billion worth of bitcoins to customers as promotional rewards, triggering a sharp sell-off on the exchange. Bithumb apologized for the mistake and said it had recovered 99.7% of the 620,000 bitcoins worth about $44 billion at current prices. It had restricted trading and withdrawals from the 695 affected customers within 35 minutes of the erroneous distribution. The exchange had planned to distribute small cash rewards of 2,000 Korean won or more to each user as part of a promotional event, but winners received at least 2,000 bitcoins each instead. Following the incident, South Korea's financial regulators, including the Financial Services Commission, has said that the incident has exposed the vulnerabilities and risks of virtual assets. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news and updates from around the world.